The people that seem like they're having the greatest time, having all the fun, is these entertainers, these bling bling people, like Britney Spears and like Destiny's Child, that all of these people who seem to be having fun, who have become the heroes, the television, the movie stars, the poster stars, the magazine stars, looking like they're all happy and proud and big homes and big money, so forth. They are the most miserable people. They die early. They are diseased. They live with despair. They wind up lonely and living in dark places. They are the most frustrated people, and when they die, they have no legacy whatsoever. Why? Because everything that the Creator told us not to do, when we do it, it winds up with disease. You name it. If the Creator told us not to drink alcohol, what is one of the greatest diseases in the world today? If the Creator told us not to use drugs, what is one of the greatest diseases in the world today? If the Creator told us not to fornicate, not to commit adultery, what is the greatest disease in the world today? Sexually transmitted diseases. If the Creator told us to be fair, don't take interest, what is the greatest source of stress in the world today? Debt. Everything the Creator said don't do, if you do it because you have the will to do it, it ends up with disease. Everything the Creator said to do, if you do it, it winds up as a gift.
أفرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه وأضله الله على علم وختم على سمعه وقلبه وجعل على بصره غشاوة وجعل على بصره غشاوة فمن يهديه من بعد الله أفلا تذكرون
I found myself doing weddings for some of the most craziest people in the world, some of the most wildest organizations in the world. I'm like the wedding singer. I'm like, you know, this international wedding singer. And I'm looking at how people are gravitating to me and extracting what little joy I had left to make themselves happy. So now I'm sitting amongst a circle of vampires, and guess what? I'm one of them. SubhanAllah. And I thought this was happiness. But the point was, you start to get frustrated because you extracted happiness from them. Now, you're looking at them like, why are you so happy? And that's when you start to realize your value. You start to realize, like, I mean, why is this person acting like this about me? If he only knew what I was going through right now, I would trade in anything just to have that genuine smile that's on his face right now. I would trade in anything to have that innocence and that naiveness that comes from not really knowing why you even happy. I would have did anything to be as pure as the person standing before me. All he spent was $14.99, and he got everything he wanted. I may have spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I just want what he got. And this is when I start paying closer attention to my surroundings. And this is when I discovered you, the Muslim. This is when I discovered the Muslim. This is when I started to travel the world, and I started to pay so much attention to my surroundings. And what I saw once I left America was pieces and traces of Islam. Every place I went, I started to see people who didn't have much happy to serve their God.
الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب.
Every single human being in this world wants to be happy. And once we reach that state, the state of happiness, we want to stay there as long as possible. But this is the problem. Here lies the problem. How is it that we can arrive at this state? How is it that I am able to become happy? What are the factors that makes us human beings happy? Religion. And why? Especially in the West. Why? Why would I think the answer is not in religion? Because usually, especially in the West, people, they associate religion with the akhirah. Religion is something that deals with our problems in the akhirah. If I want salvation in the akhirah, in the next life, I go to religion. If I don't want to go to hell in the akhirah, I go to religion. But it doesn't have to do with my dunya. If I have problems in my dunya in this life, go to religion? That's the perception and the mentality many people have towards faith. But when you go to religion in reality, and especially I'm speaking about Islam, the religion of Islam, you find that Islam is a religion of this world before the akhirah. It says, مِن سَعَادَةِ ابْنِ آدَمْ رِضَاهُ بِمَا قَضَى اللَّهُ. The happiness of the human being lies within what? Within the acceptance of the will of Allah. Always accept what Allah is doing to me. If it's out of my hands, obviously. This is the key to happiness. There is no reason to be sad for anything. Because there's always good in it. Because Allah is watching out for me. In another hadith, the Prophet says, عِبَادَ اللَّهِ أَنْتُمْ كَالْمَرْضَى وَاللَّهِ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ كَالطَّبِيبِ. SubhanAllah, it's a beautiful analogy. The Prophet says that you human beings are like sick patients. And Allah is like a doctor that's treating you through these problems. He says, فَصَلَاحُ الطَّبِيب فَصَلَاحُ الْمَرِيض فِيمَا يَعْلَمْهُ الطَّبِيب وَيُدَبِّرُهُ لَا فِيمَا يَشْتَهِيهِ الْمَرِيض وَيَقْتَرِحُهُ. He says the well-being of the patient is always, it lies in the knowledge of the doctor. If I want to get better, I have to listen to the doctor's orders, right? He tells me, eat this, do this, don't do that. I have to listen. My well-being lies within the doctor. It doesn't lie within my temptations and what I desire. If I'm sick, I can't eat whatever I want. Even though I'd love to eat, I'm sick, I love to eat fatty foods, and I love to eat this and that, I love to do this, but it's not good for me. What's good for me is to, what? Submit to the doctor and follow the orders of the doctor. The Prophet says this is exactly how you are with Allah. Submit to Allah. When something bad happens to you, you don't know how it's good for you, but in the end, it's good for you.
وهو الذي ينزل الغيث من بعد ما قنطوا وينشر رحمته وهو الولي الحميد.
What does our religion, what does this book, our scripture, what does Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen and our Imams and Imam Hussein say about happiness? How do we achieve happiness? Number one, there are some key elements. Allow me to go through them very quick. Number one of the most fundamental keys for happiness in this life, dear sisters and brothers, is to discover who you are. First, you have to discover yourself. You have to discover your own self. Many people come to this life and they go after 70 or 80 hard years. Still, they can discover science. They can discover certain sophisticated aspects of this life. But when it comes to here, their soul and their nafs and their self, they fail in discovering themselves. They become losers. Try to discover yourself. Try to discover your potentials and your talents. Try to understand your value, how much you are worth today. If you carry any item and ask people around you about the price of that value, they're going to tell you the exact answer. But when it comes to them, what is your own value? They get lost. They get lost through their attitudes and actions. The one who does a drug, the one who commits crime, the one who wastes his life and his time, the one who drops out of a school, they don't understand their own value. That is the real reason. If they realize and appreciate their own values, they would not do these things. When you are lonely, when you are penniless, when you are helpless, you should not be hopeless. Don't. Do not focus on yourself now. Focus on what you're going to become in the future. Maybe now it's a very bad conditions, bad economic conditions. You are alone. You can't pay for your rent. You can't pay for your gas. You can't pay for your food. It's right. All the messengers of Allah, the best people on this earth, a time came upon them that they did not have food, including Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this is the norm on earth. It's not the exception, it's the norm to go certain nights and certain months hungry with no food. It's the norm. You are not a big departure from that. But don't be hopeless. Have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more you get, the more money you make, the more material you possess, the better you become. Yes or no? No? In the material world, the more money you make, the more material you possess, the better you become. But in Islam, it is exactly the opposite. أكثر الناس سعادة أكثرهم زهادة قال علي بن أبي طالب عليه الصلاة والسلام. People with the most happiness and most joy and pleasure in life are the most who can exert the maximum amount of asceticism, zahada, self-control. They free themselves. They are able to free themselves from the obsession, the attachment and enchantment to al-hayat ad-dunya. They have this powerful ability to cleanse their hearts of this obsession with the dunya. Obsession with the dunya, حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. Behind any crime, any misery in this world is the obsession to the dunya, to this lower life, to this temporary life. Islam says, I want you to eat, enjoy the food, kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. But if on your table there is no 8 types of food, do not become upset and happy that you don't have 8 types of food on the table. Don't. Islam says, I want you to get married, but if you cannot afford the biggest wedding reception or the biggest or the most expensive wedding gown, do not kill yourself. Do not be sad. Do not nag on your husband and your parents, on your friends. Don't go and take a loan and you keep yourself enslaved to that loan for 10 years. Don't do that. Enjoy the marriage. Enjoy the bright side, positive side of marital life, and leave the negative one. Free yourself from the negative one. If you can't afford buying the diamond ring, do not commit suicide. Don't do this. Don't live the rest of your life in depression and happiness because you could not afford this fancy car. Don't do this. Do not torture yourself. أكثر الناس سعادة أكثرهم زهادة. People who can exercise self-control over their own worldly, cheap, lower desires.